Hello, music aficionados of the internet. I am Jared Greer from greersears.com, which you have most likely never heard of in your life, but that's okay. It's my own personal music blog where I like to discuss new artists, new albums, old artists, old albums, basically anything that has to do with music, because I love music. So if that interests you, go and check it out. This is actually the first video I'm making for this blog. I've been wanting to get around to doing video reviews, but it's never really been practical until now. And it's still not the most practical thing. I don't have the greatest lighting. I don't have the greatest equipment, but I've been wanting to get around to doing it, and I'm going to do it. And what better occasion to start than with this new Weyes Blood album? Okay, Natalie Mering, aka Weyes Blood, has just released her newest full-length LP, Titanic Rising, which if I had to characterize it, I would say it's kind of a hybrid between psychedelic folk and chamber pop. But I'm not sure if that's the best way to characterize it. That's what I'd call it. But this album is phenomenal. The first taste I got of this album was the single Every Day, which I really liked. It had some ABBA vibes to it in like a really good way. And it kind of had some Pet Sounds vibes to it. I didn't really know what to make of it, but I liked it. And then we had Andromeda, which was slightly more folky than Every Day. It had some tasteful steel guitar that I really enjoyed. It had some great progression, some great harmonies. But oh my word, Movies. Movies is the third and final single that Natalie released for this album, and it is hands down my favorite. This song blew me away. It's gorgeous, it's stunning, it's captivating. It's freaking awesome. The song is pretty restrained at the beginning. It starts with this lower synth arpeggio that sort of sweeps back and forth through the simple chord progression. And it continues to build and build and build until you have these swelling vocal harmonies that come out of nowhere and just grip your soul. It's absolutely amazing. And it continues to build and build until you get to around the center point of the song where everything breaks down and you have this string orchestra come in, take over the synth's chord progression. You have this thumping kick drum that just drives the rest of the song, and it creates such a big moment. That's one of the characteristics of this album that I think really define it. This album is filled with big moments. I mean, take the album opener, for example. A lot's gonna change. I think this might actually be one of my favorite album openers of all time. I have a playlist of my favorite album openers on Spotify. It's got Everything in Its Right Place, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, Wesley's Theory, all these classic album openers. And I honestly feel like this song would fit in that list. It feels larger than life. It has these transcendent, ethereal moments with these gorgeous vocal harmonies and these Gershwin strings that just are so warm. The song is so wistful. It's nostalgic. It's just really special. And you also have the song Wild Time, which is sort of unassuming at the beginning, but by the end, you are just entranced. It has this epic, atmospheric outro with these beautiful choral harmonies and these strings. And I feel like a lot of what I love about this album is just the harmonies and the strings. It's just one of the warmest albums I've ever heard. You have the song Something to Believe, which in my opinion is somewhat reminiscent of artists like Fleetwood Mac, and it has the same sort of formula, kind of builds softly through the verse and through the chorus, and by the time you get to the end of the chorus, you have these crisp acoustic guitar strings breaking through. You have this exquisite steel guitar. It's amazing. I mean, thematically, this album talks about a lot of things that are really relatable to a lot of people. That opener, a lot's gonna change. It sounds like a mother talking to their child about how the way things are now, they're not always gonna be this way. And in a way, it kind of seems reflective, like Natalie's reflecting on how much things have changed in her lifetime. And it kind of gets you thinking. Andromeda kind of talks about getting caught up in the mundane, getting caught up in the monotony of everyday life. We all have these dreams, we have these aspirations, but unfortunately, they're so seldom actualized and materialized. We have the song Every Day, which is about being in search of true love and not having much luck. I mean, I think that's something everybody relates to. And it kind of gets to the point where Natalie's afraid of being alone, and that fear is just kind of gnawing at her. We've all been there. Something to Believe is about wanting to fill an empty void, wanting to believe in something that's incredible, something that's larger than life, but at the same time tangible. I think that's kind of innate in every human being. I don't know anyone who hasn't felt that way at some point. We already talked about movies a little bit. It kind of goes along the same lines as Andromeda. It's about the monotony and the mundanity of everyday life, not really comparing to the extravagant grandiosity that we see in movies. I mean, everybody kind of wants to be a hero in their own fable, but that's just not really realistic. This album's a lot about making realizations, and I think one of the biggest, most consistent themes that Natalie sort of homes in on is coming to grips with the fact that your life isn't necessarily going to turn out the way you wanted it to, or the way you expected it to, or the way you planned for it to. But that's okay, because that's true of pretty much everyone. We're all on this journey through life together. So overall, I think this album is phenomenal musically. She sort of bridges this gap between the old, the familiar, the comfortable, and the new, the original, the inventive. She definitely has some influences on here. Like I said earlier, I hear some Beach Boys, I hear some ABBA, I hear some Carpenters, I hear some Fleetwood Mac. And as far as contemporaries go, I hear some Lana Del Rey, I hear some Mitski. She's kind of an amalgamation of a lot of different influences, but she definitely brings her own spin on everything. And she makes it her own, which I really appreciate and admire. Thematically, this album is incredibly relatable, incredibly touching, wistful, nostalgic. And I think this album is extremely special. I'm not sure if there's one aspect of this album I would improve upon. And because of that, I'm actually giving Titanic Rising my first perfect score on this blog. And probably the last perfect score I would have given would have been 22 Million by Bon Iver in 2016. So this is a pretty significant moment. I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10, a 100 out of 100. This album's just about perfect in my eyes. I've been listening to it nonstop since last Friday, and I highly recommend that each and every one of you do the same. So, Weyes Blood, Titanic Rising, 100 out of 100. If you'd like to stay up to date on my newest reviews, I highly recommend you go to greersears.com and sign up for the email subscription, and you subscribe here at YouTube. And until next time, I don't know how to finish that.